Good afternoon. It's the 23rd of September, my big sister's birthday. Happy birthday, big sister. You know who you are. Don't like mentioning names, so happy birthday. Love you loads. 23rd of September is about 3 o'clock in the afternoon in Bali. Good afternoon, friends, families, and all those who tune in to my bullshit to listen to me say what I say and share what I share. I have a mic next to my neck, it's not a tumor. Making improvements so the quality and the clarity of sound is to your taste and the information is passed on can be heard. Now, today is a very interesting day. I'm actually taking notes because I want to learn from this. I am in the middle of my normal office routine, but I'm also looking at stocks that I trade and also spent a lot of yesterday night learning how to read corporate financial records accurately so you can determine the value of a business based on balance sheet, profit and loss, blah blah blah. I don't want to get into all of that. This is not that kind of, I'm not that kind of, I don't teach nobody nothing. I just share experiences and talk about situations that affect me. Now, the most important thing that I want to talk about today is money. Why? Because we need it. It doesn't matter what you think about money. It doesn't really matter how you feel about corruption, blah blah blah, everything that is happening on this planet. We need money and we need to have it to survive in this environment that we find ourselves in. Within the system that is structured, the way it's been structured, everything revolves around having money, and so it's something that we need. Need is different from want. Need means essential. You need it to survive. You can be off grid, but you will still need money to buy the equipment that you need to stay off grid. So one way or the other, you're going to interact with money. You're going to need it at some point in time to do one or two things. Now, there's certain fundamental principles, rules, call them rules, whatever you choose to call them, that revolve around being able to stay liquid. And some of these things that I have used to guide myself. After my second bankruptcy, I decided to pay more attention to those things that actually made me repeat situations. Like you find yourself in a situation where you're like, you've been here before and you're back here again. That means you didn't learn anything or you didn't pay attention. Why am I back here again? Why am I back here without being able to put my hand in my pocket and pay for what I want to pay for? Yet, at some point in time, I had the funds to do that and I didn't manage the funds appropriately. You can blame everything external if that works for you. But in my opinion, I tend to look at me, because if I have, say I have £1,000 now, I use pounds because I grew up in England. Say I have £1,000 now, and that comes at the beginning of the month, and my expenses are, my fixed expenses, say my rent is 500. I say I have to pay for my vehicle, that's another 100 or 200. So that's 700 already gone on rent and vehicle. So that means 300 is there for me to feed, for me to get clothes and everything else I need for 30 days. So approximately £10 a day if it's 30 days. That's what I need to use to feed. Now I have to evaluate why I'm spending 700 on accommodation and transportation and I'm spending 300 on my nutrition, medication and all that. Doesn't make any sense. Evidently, the next thing I have to do is look for a cheaper place. That's what I will do right now. So if I'm spending 500 on accommodation and transportation and then I'm spending 500 on my livelihood, that makes proper sense. Now, based on my own experience, like I've said, one of the things that I did was I actually took a piece of paper like this and I wrote down everything I spend money on. No matter how frivolous, I just started writing down, what do I really spend money on? Because I had to take stock. This is like your own self inventory. What have you spent money on? How much do you have coming in? 1,000. How much do I spend per month? Then you can identify the things that are fixed that you spend every month. So you know those ones are your fixed expenses, rent, car, that sort of thing. Now you look at your variable expenses. Now, before I even go into the establishment of fixed versus variable expenses, there's one thing that I do, which is save. I save money. Whatever comes in, I save. So I read a book by a guy called Sir John Templeton, I think it was, quite a while ago, and Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and all that. And I learned about savings. And basically, what you do is saving money is necessary if you want to build on something. I tell everybody, even my staff, I have the same thing as I'm saying. I say to them, save. Your salary is 1,000. I would say start with 10%. So that's 100. So now you know after 10% is gone, you have 900 to contend with. Your fixed expenses already goes to 500. So you have 400 now for your variable expenses. Those variable expenses, 400 has to reach. Yeah? So now, first of all, your salary is no longer 1,000, it's 900, because that saving should be compulsory. Take that 10% out every time. You can increase it to 20%, whatever you're comfortable with, but it has to be money that you do not touch. The way I started saving is I opened 2 bank accounts. One bank account, salary goes into, and then I just automatically transfer my savings to the second bank account. It has a passbook. I don't have access to it. Doesn't have an ATM. I can't touch it unless I go physically into the bank. Now, that's just the process, because right now I'm also telling you to take your money out of the bank, so it's kind of like conflicting, but I'm trying to give an idea of what I do. You know, so now if I'm saving 100 pounds a month out of 1,000, after 12 months I have 1,200 pounds, which is actually greater than my salary per month, just by doing that. The interest is minuscule, but just by doing that. All right, so now I have in my possession more than my monthly salary after 12 months. Yes? If I'm saving 200, then after 5 months, 6 months, I have that too. So it all depends on how you look at it. Yeah? You have to cut certain corners. You have to actually deprive yourself of certain things, because if you look at it, somebody once told me, when you get money, you pay everybody else, but who pays you? And it's very interesting because, you know, you pay for the car, pay for the house, pay for the clothes. You're giving everybody else money but yourself. So that savings is more or less like paying yourself and saying, okay, now for you just being the one who's going out to do all this work, here's some money for you just in case. Now, many people have said to me, well, you know, I'm living for right now. That's your choice. But if tomorrow you wake up and you don't have money to do the things that you want to do, what are you going to do? You're going to look for someone to borrow it from, or some institution to borrow it from, or you're going to steal it. It's one of those two. Or you're going to get another job and work and increase. But if you don't have fundamental sound money management techniques, it doesn't matter how much you earn, you would always be out of pocket. I know people with a lot of plenty cars, beautiful houses, and all that, but yet at the end of the month they're always struggling, and they have this ability to acquire things, but they don't know how to manage the funds that they have, and they're always borrowing and, you know, always coming up with one flimsy excuse or the other on what they need, and they never seem to have enough. And I know nobody really has enough, but at the end of the day, so many things you buy, do you need them? So many things you buy, do you absolutely need? Do you 100%, can you justify and say, yes, you know, I need this, I need this, I need that latte, I need that, there's so many things that are just unnecessary. You don't need them. And a lot of things you do to impress other people, which are equally as stupid, you know. So ultimately, you have to take a broader view, and then learn to be a little bit more frugal, more conservative with your expenses. Fundamental thing, rule number one, spend less than you earn. This thing is so simple, yet it's probably one of the hardest things to do. Spend less than you earn. A lot of people earn money and then they're spending like, it's more than what you earn. And you spend less than you earn and invest the difference. That's really the totality of that quote. But spend less than you earn. Save a little bit, and then the savings build up, and then when you have enough savings, you can actually invest those savings into something that will help you generate revenue, and then slowly and surely you become a little bit less dependent financially on your salary, and you become a little bit more financially independent because you have multiple sources of revenue. That's the whole point. And then you don't get choked up. I used to get choked up heavy at the end of the month. I don't have money, and then you're maxing out credit cards and you're getting overdrafts and you're doing this and you're doing that, and at the end of the day you're just increasing the amount of debt you take, and you begin to wonder. It's a vicious cycle, because the more you spend, the more debt you have, and the more you're convinced that the money that isn't yours is yours anyway. But the nature of money, first of all, this is currency we're talking about. We're not even talking about real money, because real money is gold and silver, in my opinion. You can ask any money expert, they will tell you. But it's having the discipline, knowing fully well that you have to, hold something back, and you have to monitor your expenditure. You have to actually take care of how you spend your money and what you do with it, and that would help you balance your shit when the time comes. Spend less than you earn, save. Those are two fundamentals. Anybody can do that. You don't have to even save in currency. If you have 100 pounds, you can go and buy, depending on what the gold price is where you are. Like where I am, it's about, Indonesian rupiah is 14,000 to $1. So a gram of gold here is about 900,000. So really, 900,000, that's just short of $1 million. $1 million is about 10 pounds. No, $1 million is 100 pounds, sorry. So for like 100 pounds, I can go and buy a gram of gold. And that's my savings there. Gold price fluctuates, but the value of gold never drops. It's equivalent. It has been the same. You can actually go through the metrics and measure. I've suggested many videos you can go and watch. Value of gold stays the same. So you can actually start saving in precious metals. And then if they change the currency or they debase the currency, the precious metals just catches up to the value of, the nominal value of what it's supposed to be. Remember, gold, you can't print gold. Gold is the only metal, in my opinion, that has no flaws. 5,000-year-old gold is still gold. Yesterday, today, tomorrow, forever. That's why it's money. It's 5,000 years old. 5,000-year-old theory of money still exists today. So why not buy silver? It has industrial value, so these are ways for you to actually store the value of what you, because really you're looking at money as, really it's the time you use to actually create that. That's what you're rewarding. So you're rewarding yourself for the time you have used to create that amount of currency that you've been paid with. Yeah, that is the reward for the time that you have put into a particular venture. So that time must be valuable, because you can't buy that time back. So how you value that time is what you should really be thinking about. How do I value my time? Do I just throw that time away? Do I go and drink that time and dance that time away? It's time you're actually looking at now. If you look at it in that terms, you'd actually be more careful with what you do with that time. You would just chuck it away. You worked hard for that time. Save it. There's a film called In Time. I think it's In Time. Justin Timberlake. It's a very good film to watch, because it changes your perspective on what is valuable and what is not. Like I said, always think in terms of value, not price. If you think in terms of price, you can get misled. Think in terms of value. What is the value of this piece of paper that I have in my hand? What can I buy with it today? Is the value the same today as it will be tomorrow, or is the value the same yesterday as it was? And then you begin to realize, what are the things that hold value the longest? So if I can buy this with this 10 years ago, and I can still buy that with this 10 years from now, then this thing is holding value longest. It might not appreciate, so it might not be an investment vehicle where you realize more currency, but it's still a store of value that is consistent, and so you can transfer your wealth from one generation to another with a consistent store of value. That's what I'm saying. And to me, the only thing that has actually represented that as well over time and has proved itself is gold. Even central banks buy gold. Why? Because they base their economy, most of them, their monetary system is actually based on the amount of reserves of gold that they have. So, and this thing that I'm saying, not many people even understand the necessity of having physical gold and silver in your portfolio. Store value, it's a way for you to actually maintain your wealth. Well, like I said, these are my strategies. These are the things that I do. Yeah. One, okay, let's put it like I'm giving you a lecture. What have we learned today? One, we spend less than we earn. If you earn 1,000, bring your expenditure down to a practical level. It has to be pragmatic. You don't just get money in and push money out simply because you're following all the trends. You would always be broke. Get money in, look at what is fixed, what is variable, look at your savings and consider that to be regimental. Don't even look at it as an optional. It has to be regimental. The money that comes in, what you save is regimental. And make that part of your routine, your character, that builds in. And then whatever comes in, you save. I save till today. I've been saving for years. I save till today. All I do is when I accumulate enough currency, I just transfer it into precious metals. Or I could actually buy the precious metals little piece by little piece. You know, I save in precious metals. I still have cash, but I save a greater proportion of my money is saved in precious metals. Why? Because I know if I don't have money, I can take one piece of gold and just go to the bank and swap it over. I can even go into certain shops and swap it over and buy what I need to buy. So really, I've lost nothing. But paper is paper. Paper can, the 4,000 degrees Fahrenheit you need to melt gold. Who's going to do that? There's a fire in my house. I still have my my savings, and some of it is not in my house anyway. So there are ways for you to actually look towards improving your financial situation rather than, embarrassing yourself and losing your self-esteem because you're going around borrowing all the time from this and that. You can actually just begin to be a little bit more disciplined in your spending habits. You don't have to be in the best restaurants. You don't have to drink the best of everything. You don't have to wear the best of everything. Like my dad always said, cut your coat according to your size. This idea of having to live for a public image is useless. Nobody, when you're sick, all those people who you're trying to impress, none of them come to your bedside. If you're broke, all of them would walk away from you just as fast as they walked into your life. These things are not necessary. You don't have to impress anybody. You don't have to live up to any other person's expectations other than yours. You don't have to actually try and be anybody else but yourself. And that's the hardest thing to do. The hardest person to be is to be yourself. With the public, everything tries to influence you to be somebody else other than who you want to be. You learn to shut all that noise out. Focus on who you are. No matter what happens, somebody's always going to find a fault with you anyway, so who gives a shit? Doesn't really matter what any other person thinks about you. What matters is what you think about yourself. As I am here, I can feed my family. Come rain, sun or shine, COVID or not, I can still feed my family. And that's because I was disciplined enough to know that when the good times were there, I put something aside for the expectation of a bad time coming. That's just basically it. When you have the excess, be prudent. When you don't have, then you can act. That's the whole point of acquiring assets too. And this is the best time for you to actually begin to get rid of those things that you assume are assets. Like when you buy a car, you have more than one car, 2, 3 cars, and you're there, you don't have money to actually put petrol in the car, and you still want to keep those cars. Something's wrong with you. Something is seriously wrong with you. Get rid of at least one of them. You still got 2 or 3 or 4 or whatever. Get rid of one and use the money and sort yourself out. I mean, somebody comes up to you and you look at the conveniences they have, and they are way more expensive than the conveniences I have, and you're coming to ask me to bankroll you. I mean, you must be crazy. What's that about? Sell what you have. Get rid of something. You know, what is more valuable to you? And I have people who are doing this every day, walking up to me asking me for this, that, and the other. And they have way more flashy things than I have. Wouldn't I want to get flashy things? Of course I'd like to have flashy things, but is it practical for me to get flashy things with the responsibilities I have? Of course not. I have to think, use this. I have to use my head. Rather than me go and buy a $500 shirt. I mean, it's just a bloody shirt. What's the point? It's the name. How much I sew clothes. I make clothes. It's just the name, it's the brand name. At the end of the day, I have shirts that I sew for less than whatever, and I wear them and they look just as good. So you have to begin to, reduce all these things. You don't have to have the latest of everything. You don't have to feel like you belong. That means you're insecure. You have to actually sit down and look at what exactly is making you feel insecure, that you want to use material objects to fill that void. That has nothing to do. That has to do with your own personal feeling about yourself. If you want to use material objects as leverage to compensate for how you feel about yourself, then that's a serious problem. You need to actually go and look inside and deal with that. Because you can buy everything in the world, you'll still feel the way you feel. It wouldn't change the feeling. It would just change the quality of things you buy, because you would continue to, and that would lead you down the wrong path. You fall in love with who you are first, and then you realize how very little you need in order to feel good. You can get 1 or 2 toys, that's okay. I have 1 or 2 toys. Yeah. So what? I can afford them. I can afford them. I can set fire to my car today with shake nothing. It's a car. A cheap car. I don't assign too much value to it because I understand this is to get me from A to B. So I don't have to go and take my life savings and put into buying a car. How does that help? I had to spend years retraining my mind, rethinking, because they bombard you with advertisements every day, and it's all about this status thing. And the status, everything is bullshit. It doesn't really exist. You're not climbing up any social ladder because you're driving a car and you can't afford to pay your rent. Doesn't make sense. It doesn't. You wear the best clothes, but you can't afford to look after your own nutrition. Doesn't make sense. The food you eat is crap, but you look good on the outside, but you're dying on the inside. And then when the medical bills come, hello, you can Gucci this or Fendi that, but they're not going to pay for that medical bill with all the things that you have. You have to change your lifestyle. So actually, I'm not even talking about money today, because I've gravitated towards talking about the lifestyle, the life that I live, the life that whoever is listening to this lives. I'm not giving you instructions. I'm simply telling you what I did. I changed my lifestyle. I put my priorities where the priorities needed to be. Every revenue that I get, I save. All money that comes in, money from my salary, money from the things that I do outside, I save. Investments that I actually partake in, when I get revenue, I save and I share. I've lost so much in terms of currency with very, very silly investments that I've made. If I had to sit back and backtrack all the investments that I've made, and I see that all the different businesses that I've tried, things that I've tried to do without actually going through the fundamentals sound, and I count all that money, I'd be well off. Hell, I've lost a hell of a lot more than I've made, no doubt. But still, I'm in a place where I can comfortably afford my conveniences and maybe some of my inconveniences too. And that is from being prudent, from sound fundamentals. It applies in every segment, everything to do with your life. If you have sound fundamentals where you're looking towards getting constructive results, and this would actually follow through. Health, wealth, everything. So look after your money and pay some respect to it, because you know you need it. So you have to respect what it does for you. You need it. Because unfortunately these are very dark times, and they're going to get darker. We're facing the second wave or whatever, the second phase of lockdown now. I know what it's doing to the businesses that I have, to the business that I have, the primary business that I have with my wife. I know what it is doing. And I can see the frustration building on the faces of the many. And you can see the strategies that most of these big businesses are using in order to maintain their stands, keep their foot on our necks. What are they doing? I was reading about this, I actually noticed this. A lot of these businesses are actually going to take loans at 0% interest, and they're buying their own shares. They're buying their shares back. So they're turning their companies from public to private after the public has generated most of the revenue that has allowed them to expand and scale up to where they are now. They're now taking them back private, and all they have is a large long-term liability with the bank at 0% interest, which they can pay off using their operational funds. And then all those giant companies are all private. Pfizer, Microsoft, you name it, Amazon, they're buying their shares back. And then they control the market. When you talk about true monopoly, that's the true monopoly. So they can steer the world in any direction they want to when they acquire that kind of power. These are very dark times. You need to be prepared. One of the ways you need to be prepared is to preserve your wealth, look after your money, preserve your health. Remember, stress, that's a killer too. This is a message of love. I don't get paid for this. There's no malicious intent. Everything I'm saying is based on what I have done, the experiences I've had that I'm willing to share. So, the choice, the action that needs to be taken in order to change your situation, improve it, is yours, as it is mine. The quality of life that I want to live, to achieve it, it would require prudent planning, bit of sacrifice, and discipline. I'm comfortable with what I have. I don't really want to have all that. Like they say, more money, more problems. You can afford to eat. You can afford to educate yourself and your kids. You can afford to go on holiday when you want to. You can afford a decent life, and you make a meaningful contribution to your community. You can afford to put something away for your old age. I remember when I was 25, I said to myself that I would never collect a pension from anywhere. I said that was my own. I said I would never collect a pension from anywhere. I'd make sure that I do enough to make my elderly years comfortable for myself. I'm still working on that. But I define what comfortable is for me. See, I don't go by the generic definition of comfortable. I don't go by the generic definition of success, wealth, all those things. I don't follow any generic definition. I define it for myself, so I know what I'm looking for. That's probably a mistake some people make. They say, oh, that's success. I want to Lamborghini. You know, everything is actually based on material acquisition. And then there's a loss of focus. You know, for me, that's not how I do. I look at what I have my own definitions. I set my own targets, and when I achieve that target, I'm grateful. There's something I put on social media the other day on my Facebook page. I want to just pull that up. It's a quote, one of the quotes that I wrote. See if I can get that up and read this. This is quite a long video. I think I've done about 30 minutes so far. And I'm not really monitoring it. This is one of those one-offs. I'm just going to put it out there. I'll probably chop it up a little bit and put some on Instagram and all that. But, you know, I do these things for myself. This is actually a reminder for me, because later on I'd watch it when I can stand the sound of my own voice. I'd watch it and I remember, yeah, these are things that I need to do. So as I'm telling anyone else and I'm speaking about these things, I'm also reminding myself of what I need to do, how I need to live as well, the steps that I need to take in order to be sure that I do or that I arrive at the destination that I want to arrive at. So it is as much a reminder for me as it is for any other person who's listening to it. So that's why I'm grateful for the opportunity to get to say what I say. So, what did I say? Let's see. It's very simple. It says, perhaps in being so determined to be a success, I forgot why I chose to succeed. It's very interesting. The why, the reason, the why. Why is the only real source of power. Without it, you are powerless. And this is how you come to me, without power, without reason. Another link in the chain. That's from the Matrix Reloaded, Merovingian, when he was talking to Neo and Morpheus and Trinity. Why is the only real source of power. Without it, you are powerless. When you understand why you do things, it puts things in perspective. Sit down and look at your financial situation. If you're where you've arrived at and where you need to be, then that's all good. If you're not, then you have to ask yourself why. Why am I repeating this cycle of never having enough? You know, like what Einstein says, definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again while expecting a different result. The unfortunate thing is COVID came at a time when none of us expected it, and so it would hurt quite a lot of us, and it would damage whatever financial institution most of us have actually been able to build up. It will damage it. And a lot of us will be impacted greatly. I'm being impacted greatly in many ways. But the thing is, I had a culture that I had already institutionalized. I had a habit that I already formed. And this habit was spending less than I earn and saving as much as I can and investing in things that I know would generate revenue for me, and even also saving in a format that is a store of value. Like I said, I've always saved in precious metals and many other things that I've done. So I am fortunate to be in a position where I know that, okay, no matter how difficult it's going to get, I will be able to pull through. But there's so many people who don't have that. And so I would implore, as I do as well, if you are in a position to help somebody, help them. But help them with wisdom. There's something in Buddhism that I read somewhere called bodhicitta, and that is compassion with wisdom. You know, even with Neely Fuller, when it says, those who need help the most get the most constructive help. Because you can't see somebody who wants to actually go and buy booze in order to get drunk and throw up on the sidewalk and you go and give them more booze simply because they're asking you for help. That doesn't make sense. Those who need help the most, they have to get constructive help. You can't help somebody to be destructive. You have to help people to be constructive. That's another facet. Paying it forward too. Help when you can. It's a tough time. It's a very tough time. I guess that's one of the reasons I started doing these videos, because I felt like if I could offer any piece of information that would assist somebody in being able to deal with one or two situations, why not? That's help. It doesn't have to be physical. It could even be a prayer. It could be a smile. It could be a kind gesture. It could be a hug. Evidently with a mask on. That's the new abnormal. Yeah. This is a time for people who are creative to use that creativity, to listen to that still small voice and use that to express whatever they're feeling, and you can actually transform that into some form of commerce as well. Well, I gotta get back to work. I think I have only about 36 minutes, so I have about 24 minutes for my lunch break. I have to eat something. Yeah, doesn't matter. I still have to adhere to the tenets of the business. So, thank you for sharing this time with me. Thank you for listening. Thank you for finding value in what I say. If it's been beneficial for you, I would implore you to share. This is going to be available on most of the platforms where I save stuff. I'm looking at going on this thing called Parlay, amongst other platforms, and I'll still be working on that. I have a number of videos, but everything is on my website. So you go to my website, which is ea-2wo.com, ea2wo.com. YouTube, just type in ea2wo or go to youtube.com/user/eapenu, and that's eapenu, and channel will pop up. Click to subscribe, share. There's the notification button. You can click on that too, and you'll be notified when I make new videos, when I put up new videos, which I do. I'd say every 2 or 3 days. I have a lot on my mind. I just put one up. I don't have any set topics, and I don't really. This is the first time I've actually decided to talk about one thing in particular and then stay within that main frame. As you can see, I drifted out from saving money and all that, and I went into other things because everything is interrelated, everything is interconnected. I don't believe in holding one particular narrative. I just share experiences and information that I have, and if they're beneficial, use them. If they're not, discard them. The trash can of history, and move on. And move on. So, like I said, Instagram, ea2wo, Twitter, ea2wo. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm almost everywhere. I'm going to start reducing my social media platforms. I think I'm going to stick to 1 or 2. Instagram's still good, and I do a lot of lives every now and then, and I put that on my YouTube. But YouTube is basically where you'd find everything that I do, and my website. And there's so many audio. I do a lot of audio in the mornings when I wake up. I call them after shower thoughts, and I have a thought, but they're usually radical. Some of them are they push the envelope, because I read a lot of stuff and I pay attention to a lot of stuff so I could talk about things from the extraterrestrials to derivatives. I could be talking about philosophy, psychology. I could, whatever. I can be talking about just jealousy, insecurity, how I deal with insecurity, how I deal with everything, and how I cope. I could be talking about something to do with African politics. It doesn't really matter, but the audios are there. I'm uploading them. I think I've done about 4 or 5, and I have business audio too on my website. So the business audio, it's informative. Even I listen to it and I find it informative. And feel free to check that out. You can download them. It's all for free. You can listen to them and download. I don't charge for anything. Just my book, I still charge for. And so I'll go back to, I used to do a lot of t-shirts. I have a brand called Inspirewear, where you can actually see that at ea-2.com. That's my other website, and you can see all the t-shirts, but nothing is active. I'm actually building up a whole new range of designs, a whole new stock, which would be available for purchase, but offline and online. I would probably put them in our shops and have them online, where you can actually order your t-shirt that has one of the EA2 quotes, like the one you see everywhere where it says, when I want to learn, I listen. One who is quick to blame is slow to learn. These are 2 of my favorite quotes that I've used, and I've sold quite a number of t-shirts using them quotes. So look out for that. That's coming soon. Until then, adios amigos. Arrivederci. Agaraloe, that's my language. Dowo. Bye-bye. Love you all. And I mean that, even though I don't know you. I mean it, even though I don't know you. And I wish you a happy today, better tomorrow, and a much more prosperous day after that, and forevermore. And like I said, we'll see you when next I do one of these. Until then, have a good day. Take care of yourselves and each other. Be healthy, be safe.
Yo, you see, these dreams only seem to manifest when I'm woke. I'll bite the wings off an angel if that shit helps me cope. But on this downhill stream where we tumble and roll, it seems I only find solace in a couple of folks. Yeah, man, I'm grown now. I'm trying to move up on my own now, so I don't need no pronouns. No intention of this slowdown, so tell me what you're thinking. I might tell you about my own sound. I'll tell you what I'm sipping. Stare you down in your eyes like I wanna know your visions, where your goals at. Would you want from me? Would you run from me if I told you just how my soul's cracked? But see, I guess we're all damaged, but I guess it's hard to find balance, especially when lean's dripping outside of your chalice. Got me walking tight ropes between greatness and madness. I'm just a lonely samurai. I sharpen blades and sip potions, medicate the mental in these foreign scapes with my Jonas. This ain't something that I'm new to. Originals, we ain't no Mewtwo. I hope they get the message like it's Bluetooth. Like, tell me, would I lose you? Wait, how